What's up, everybody? This is Chuck Creekmore, aka Jigsaw, here for allhiphop.com. And we are here with none other than Lecrae, hip hop artist who happens to be Christian, doing a lot of things in this community, in this world. But today we had a situation with a video that went viral in a conversation with yourself, an evangelical preacher. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm.
And the CEO of Chick-fil-A. I'm sorry, I don't know those gentlemen's names off the top of my head right now, but it did go viral, and it was a storm of social media controversy still going. But I'm glad to have you here. Really seriously, man. To talk to you. We've talked before at the Apple Store, and we ran into each other earlier this year before COVID and everything at TI Studio. So I just want to talk to you. First things first, how are you? How are you feeling about things?
I mean, I was shocked then. I'm shocked now. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, it was in a controlled environment, but then you do realize that now the whole world is hearing it, and I understand. You know what I'm saying? I understand the frustration and the pain and just how people are receiving it. So, you know what I mean? It wasn't like I was okay with it. I wasn't like, yeah, I totally agree. I was shocked as well. And it made me uncomfortable, but in the heat of the moment, it's like, trying to gauge the intentions and how to respond to it in the moment.
Yeah. So one person, and I wasn't even going to ask this question, but somebody asked me to ask you, why didn't you check him at this point? He said, white blessing.
Yeah. So what's funny about it is like, I really didn't even catch it. It was like I heard it, but I didn't hear it. It was like almost like I hear what you're saying, but I don't think I hear what you're saying. So I'm like tracking, like, and inside I was like, wait, where's he going with this? Like, almost trying to give him like, okay, where are you going with this? What are you trying to say? And then I got his intention, you know what I'm saying? But so it wasn't like he was saying slavery's a blessing. It was more like he was trying to say, all people hate white privilege. Can we rename it? Mm-hmm. And I was trying to like, okay, where are you going with this? But I was just shocked. It was just more just like, what? You know what I mean? So it didn't register immediately to like address it. It just was more like, wow.
And so for people that don't know, I've been on a lot of these spaces. I've been on Bill O'Reilly when it was, the most heated, when Bill O'Reilly was eating people up and spitting them out, and managed to handle them to the point where they wouldn't have me on anymore. I've been on MSNBC and a lot of spaces that seem welcoming, but then you get these little, I think they call them microaggressions. That was pretty brazen, but things, and your audience, you're in front of another type of audience. What was kind of, I know you said shock, but what was sort of what were you considering in your mind when he said that? What were you thinking?
Part of it is like, yo, I know this dude does not mean what I think he means. You know what I mean? So, and all the time when I'm in these situations, whenever I'm dealing with like issues of racial injustice, white supremacy, or whatever, it's always a catch-22. So being honest with you, the night before that, I was downtown Atlanta after Rayshard got killed, and they was burning up the Wendy's. So I was down there with everybody. I'm in the front of the line, mad as hell, talking to the police officer. So my emotions was hot, you know what I mean? And so I was even telling my man, pray for me as I go in here to talk tomorrow, because I'm in a weird space and I don't want to lash out and say nothing crazy and do nothing crazy. So it was like a lot of, man, just trying to control myself and just trying to like, all right, how am I going to have this conversation? Because just the night before, and I put a little bit on my socials, but I was spazzing, you know what I mean? Because I was just hot. I'm breaking up fights and it was just crazy. I was spazzing.
I felt like the statement was was brazen. I'll be honest. I felt like it was, you know, like you said, when someone says something like that, or when you say something, or I say something, you tend to check yourself. You'll be like, yo, what I mean is, yo, hold on, let me back up. What I mean to say is, Jesus died on the cross so we could be good right now. You know what I mean? Like, so you figure a way to fix it. But
Right.
I didn't get the impression that he was, and I'm not trying to demonize the brother. I saw the full conversation. It is a full conversation.
Yeah.
But I will say this, it spoke volumes to how subliminal and very quiet racism can be, even unbeknownst to the person perpetrating it.
Yeah. I think that's part of the issue is that you can say something completely off the wall and not know it. You know what I mean? And so I've been a proponent too, like, you know, I'm not tap dancing for no checks. I don't have nothing to gain by being in them spaces and places. So because I have white friends, you know, I've been like allowing them to fumble the ball, you know what I mean, as they try to figure stuff out, to say stuff in a safe place. I think the problem is he fumbled the ball on a very big platform. You know what I mean? Like he said something on a very big platform, and it's like, man, that has to be checked. You don't even know what you're saying. But it was like, man, we running. You know what I mean? It's like, oh wow, this is happening right now. The problem is, and what I'm learning, you know, even in this moment now, is like, man, there's too many times where we're talking about racism in America, and it's the white person leading the conversation or carrying the conversation and not listening. And that's really what it should have been more of, is a posture of, let me hear what Black people have to say about racism in America, instead of coming out and giving my thoughts, because I'm going to drop the ball. I'm going to say something ridiculous.
Is he, you know, I know you guys talked backstage. First of all, I mean, how was that conversation? And second of all, have you talked since this has turned into sort of a thing?
Yeah, we talked immediately afterward, and I let him know my thoughts, you know, because he felt like, man, I think, you know, it was so many things that happened in that whole conversation that was like, yo, that needed to be addressed. You know what I'm saying? I got my shoes, dude tried to shine my shoes, and I was like, yo, bro, we want Chick-fil-A stock. We don't want shoe shine. You know what I mean? So it was so many little things that we had to discuss. But so that was one of a bunch of different things. You know what I mean? And my biggest you know, thing, like, that's the snapshot of a lot of stuff that happened. So my biggest thing that I was trying to communicate to them was, we can't be doing this virtue signal and stuff, just having conversations about race just so it looks like we on the pay. We really got to be about this. You know what I mean? Because I just came from this protest last night. People was burning stuff up and screaming at police. Like, this is a real thing. So just this kumbaya, look, guys, we're multicultural. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what we need right now. We need real work. So that was what we discussed. That's what I was telling him. So even in this, like, even after it, it's like, what I told him, because I talked to him after everything happened, and my conversation with him was you got to lean in. You know, an apology, an apology's not gonna be what people are gonna be like, oh, thank you. It's gonna be, you gonna have to be consistent over some years of really leaning into this and dismantling white supremacy in your own life and in the culture as a whole.
Do they believe in white supremacy? Do they look? I'll be real with you. I haven't been in a white church in about 10 years.
Yeah.
And one of my really good friends, and my best friend from childhood, is white, a very, very good guy. And he does one thing that I really appreciate and value. He listens to me. And sometimes he doesn't appreciate everything, but he listens. And we're still friends to this day.
Right.
Do you think he's heard what's being said?
I don't know, man. Like, I would hope so. You know what I'm saying? That would be my hope. I think it's hard for, you know, white people in white contexts to see, you know, the areas that they can't see. You know what I mean? And I talked to him about it. I was like, you know, I said it in the panel, like, you can be so guys in the inundated in your white world that you feel like because everyone around you agrees with your perspective, it must be the right perspective. And I was like, nah, that like, you know, everybody thought slavery was okay in the white community at one point in time, but it wasn't. You know what I mean? So that was kind of my argument is, and I understand like you live in this space, so you can't see what you can't see. That's why you have to humble yourself and listen. You know what I mean? I mentioned too, like as a Black person, I'm double read. Like I've read the books that you read, and I got to read the books by the Black authors that you've never picked up. So I see stuff from a different vantage point than you're gonna see stuff, and that's why I don't know. I can never say, you know, where a person is. I just want to encourage people on the journey. If you're on a journey, then keep walking, keep learning, keep growing.
And it was crazy to see people go at you. They wanted you to be a voice for them in that space. They wanted you to, they wanted you to do a lot, the most. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's why a lot of the anger was directed directly at you, whereas he really didn't catch it. Like he, you know, it's kind of like, oh, we expect that from you. But I think you caught the brunt. What have you perhaps learned, or what do you feel like people are like, bro, like this is why I really pushed this conversation, because we've met enough times that I wanted you to talk directly to people, because this wouldn't go away. You know, people go away about this forever or a really long time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, have you learned, you know, what have you learned? I mean, you could learn about your people, maybe about yourself. Would you have done anything different? Like,
Yeah, I mean, of course, you know, I've learned a lot. You know, I'm on a journey too. You know, at the end of the day, I don't call myself a scholar or academic on sociology or anything. So I'm always learning and hearing perspectives. You know what I mean? And I get the anger. You know, I understand the frustration and the anger because I felt it too. You know what I mean? I learned a couple things. One, I learned that sometimes my anger toward people who I feel like are tap dancing, you know, maybe I don't know the full story because now I'm a victim of that. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm like, well, that ain't the full story. But to me, I'm like, you know, case in point, when Charlemagne was talking to Joe Biden and Joe Biden was like, you ain't Black. And everybody was like, yo, Charlemagne, why you just let him say that? You know what I mean? But I'm like, all right, cool. I get it. Like what's the whole story? What's the context of everything that went down? Mine is a little different because mine was an hour-long conversation and it was, you know, a snippet where I didn't say anything. I just let them say something and I didn't say anything. And so, well, in that moment, I didn't. So what I learned is, man, just be ready. Even when you feel like it's a safe environment, it's an environment where everything's going to be copacetic and you'll be able to do your thing. Like be ready, be prepared, and know what you're getting yourself into. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a big piece that I've learned from a lot of this.
I'm gonna ask this question. Don't take it the wrong way, but when you released the statement earlier, someone was like, "Yeah, but he didn't apologize." Do you feel like you owe people, Black people, an apology?
I mean, I guess my intention was not. So yes, in a sense of this, if you are let down, if you feel hurt, because everyone has different vantage points. So anybody who feels hurt, disrespected by that, man, my deepest apologies to you. You know what I'm saying? Because that was not my intention. My intention was not to shuck and jive and just agree with something that is, painful. You know what I mean? That's my history too. And so I don't think that's okay. You know, and I would never approve of that. So for all of them, yes, I think there's so many subsets of us and a lot of people who are just like, man, you know, what were you doing? And I'm like, well, let me tell you what I was doing. So I know my intentions. My intentions were not to just be like, Tweedly dee, say what you want to say, Mr. King guy, you do what you do. That wasn't my intention. My intention was really to be there on behalf of us and to let, you know, his audience know what we wrestle with and what we struggle with. And I felt like that's what I was trying to do throughout the conversation. So, you know, I have no problem apologizing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not too proud to admit, like, man, people was hurt by my actions. You know, I've said stuff in the past that people was hurt by it, and man, I apologize. You know what I mean? That's not my intention. My intention was to lift up and not tear down.
I think people find it really hard to comprehend being in those spaces and talking to um, an audience that does not understand, but also trying to be that conduit for people to understand. You know, if we want things to get better, we have to figure out a way to communicate with each other. And there's people that are there and are able to. So me, like I said, you know, my business partner and I, Greg, we used to strategize like, all right, this time we're going to wear our hat this way because they're going to understand us a little better if we wear it this way. But if you wear it like this, they're going to think you a hood or oh, this time I'm going to wear a suit. They're going to listen to me more if I wear a suit. Understanding now that it really doesn't matter what you wear, and they're going to receive the message the same way. But talking to, you know, white audiences, middle America is a special, or down south is special as far as I've been able to see. But you have audiences from sort of this ministry side, you know, being a Christian rapper, as well as sort of mainstreaming of your music. How is it walking that line, that tightrope?
It is. That's exactly what it is, man. It's a tightrope. You know what I mean? You gotta know. You gotta have integrity within yourself to not sell yourself short, to really stand up for what you believe in. But then you also got to do a lot of soul searching so that you actually know what you believe in. You know, it's a lot of actors that get caught up in that role that they've been acting in for so long, so they don't even know who their real selves are. And sometimes you can straddle the line so much that you don't know where you really stand. You know, where do I really stand on what particular issues? Because I've been so diplomatic for so long. You know what I mean? So that's a hard part about it, man. And I feel like 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I really turned the tide, especially with a lot of with my white audience, because I really spoke out against racial injustice. And you know, I had 3,000 people coming to my shows before that turned into 300. You know what I mean? And so it drastically changed, but I knew where I stood. You know what I'm saying? So even in this, it's like I know where I stand. I mean, this moment, I can't let it define me. I know where I stand. It's a terrible circumstance, a terrible moment, but I know what I'm about. You know what I mean? And those who know me know what I'm about. They know this is not what Lecrae is about and what Lecrae stands for. So it's tough to toe that line, but I feel like I don't really have to dance anymore. And I probably was a little too diplomatic, and not probably. I was too diplomatic in this meeting. You know what I mean? I was too diplomatic. I was trying to explain stuff in a way that I felt like, okay, how can I say this so that you get it? But the truth of the matter, here's another thing I learned. Truth of the matter is, people in the 60s said it better than I ever could. And people still haven't listened. You know what I mean? So, you know, I just have to be 100 and say what it is, and the allies come as they come, and the infrastructures get torn down as they get torn down.
Do you have any new views on cancel culture? I'll put this in the framework of myself. You know, a few years ago, I very casually was writing for a website, and I had a fatherhood column, and I wrote an open letter to Nicki Minaj. You know, I'm like, all right, this is a quick check. Boom, let me just write this open letter, fulfill my obligation, and they came for me like I had never seen in my life, and it was crazy. It blew my mind, and I've been more thoughtful since then. But you know, folks that I knew in real life were like canceling me, and I was like, yo, I know you don't. Like, can we talk? Like, can we get on the phone or DM or anything in real life? And it really never happened with anybody. Now I did have quiet supporters, but I had a lot of people that were not vocal in that support. They were very quiet in that support. Have you learned anything in this moment? Like, I mean, as it relates to cancel culture?
Yeah. You know, and I say this in all humility. The emotions are real. The anger people feel is real. And so I don't downplay that at all. But at the same time, um, you know, no human being should bear the weight of all the praise or all the criticism. So there's no way like I could sit under the weight of all of that criticism. So I haven't even looked at it, because for me it's like, why would I allow that to, you know, infiltrate my psyche? You know what I mean? I have real friends who care about me and who love me, who've addressed me and said, bro, that ain't it. This is this. And they're not gonna cancel me because they really genuinely love me. And you know, if I lose fans, you know what I'm saying, and then they don't hear my real intention and my real heart. You know what I mean? So that's just the reality I gotta deal with. But most of the people who are on the cancel train right now are people who was not really my supporters in the first place. So that's the tough part for me, is like, y'all really wasn't rocking with me though. You know what I mean? Y'all never celebrated any of my wins, but y'all definitely here to celebrate my loss. So that's kind of, you know, in all humility.
Yeah, super, super important. And it's funny. By the way, I should say this too. When I told my daughter I was interviewing you, she said, "Tell him he's one of our favorites." she told me to tell you. You know what I mean? And so I just want to make that something as well. You know, when she was growing up, I didn't expose her to all hip hop, no pun intended, or actually every pun intended. But I did let her listen to a lot of Christian hip hop and some edited, but mostly, you know, guys like yourself, um, D1, you know, some others as well. So just, you know, want to thank you for that, because you guys were creating like real hip hop that wasn't, it was just good for everybody, you know. So, you know, I want to salute you in that regard. Musically, yeah. Where are you? I know you have an album on the way called Restoration. Can you speak on that and sort of where you are musically as well?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Restoration came about because of everything that I just kind of went through today. I experienced with a lot of white America. You know what I'm saying? And so it was kind of like, you know, I was so mad, I was raging and frustrated and just wanted to go off. And man, just being able to sit in counseling, being able to talk through this has calmed me down. I almost feel like the Lord prepared me for a moment such as this, because you know, just not allowing it to take me to the darkest place it could. I think that's the toxicity. I think cancel culture is great when people can help you reflect, or they're trying to help you, like, yo, bro, this ain't it. Let me give you some direction. But when it's just visceral and toxic and everyone's like, man, you trash, don't you ever open your mouth again, like, you absorb too much of that, it's gonna be bad for you. So I absorbed too much of that before. So I came with the album Restoration just because, man, God has definitely restored me in a lot of ways. And then, man, I also just want to see restoration. I want to see that in America. I want to see that for people. I want to see that in general. So I've been working on the album, you know, me, S1, obviously YK Osiris, John Legend, BJ the Chicago Kid, Danny Lay, you know, a lot of great folks on the project. Been working on a lot of music, D Smoke, you know, out of Inglewood. So it's great music, man. And you know, hopefully, you know, people will hear my heart on it.
Now, did you go like pop for a minute? I pulled up on MTV one day. I pulled up on MTV one day with Redman, and you were there, and I was like, "Yo, I didn't know he had a project out." Did you kind of did you skew a little pop at one point or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely, I'll find you with Tori Kelly. You know, opened up some different avenues and different doors that I had never been in before. So, you know, and then, you know, I mean, you just got to remember too, obviously, when you have a largely young white Christian fan base, they listen to pop music as well, so they putting their friends onto you, and you know, you navigate in that space too.
Got you. All right, dope, dope. Now you're doing a lot in the community, and this is the other reason I had you on, because you know I'm like, yo, hold up, y'all, like we can't cancel this guy. This guy is doing some things, and our hip hop covers what you do. We report on what you do, and that's why I keep stressing to our community that we are important as well, because some of the stuff that you do might not get reported, but when something like this other stuff happens, it's all over the place. Just speak on a few things. I know you have the Peace Prep, which is a school in the Bluff. I don't know if folks know about the Bluff. I do. I was down there when around T.I.'s museum and all that area. I didn't go in, but speak on some of the things that you have going on in your community in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's, Peace Prep, which, like you said, is in one of the toughest areas on the West Side, and that's gonna be there. Whether or not people cancel me or not, them kids still got to eat. They still got to be educated, and I'm always gonna do the work that needs to be done, because they're being overlooked. It's the most underserved community in Atlanta. There was no school there for decades. So, we rallied together, my man Ben Wills, and put a school in that community. On top of that, obviously we are doing masks for the people, where we are making sure that, we got over 50,000 masks for inmates in the Georgia prisons, and just making sure that all the inmates have masks in light of everything that's going on with COVID-19. And then I'm part of Grove Park, that's where Killer Mike and T.I., they got Bankhead Seafood. I'm on the board of Grove Park Renewal Store. So our goal is just to, buy up the block, restore the community, and allow people to thrive. So, I'm still going to do the work, man. Whether or not I get shined for it, it got to be done. And that's just part of my heartbeat. You know what I'm saying? So it's got to be done.
So on a hip hop tip, I got to get your top 5 dead or alive, man. I don't think I got that from you last time. Do you have a top 5 or your top favorite as a younger man or whatever?
Yeah, my top 5, everybody's, it's like categories. There's like all time. There's like, what categories are you in? But I would just say, for me, it's gonna be Andre 3000, 3 Stacks for sure. I'm definitely gonna have, Jay in there. I definitely got Kendrick in there. I got and then I got Pac and Biggie, and so that's my 5. I feel like Nas and M and Kanye are 3 others that I really love to see in the mix, but that's where I'm at.
What is your take on Kanye? I found it very interesting that Kanye was in debt to the tune of over 15 million, and then soon as he becomes like running a pseudo church, he becomes a billionaire. Now I know a lot of that was Adidas, but sure, it's no coincidence that things change quickly for him. Do you have any views on that or any stance on?
Yeah, I relate. I know. I mean, I feel like I know where he's coming from the standpoint of being in the public eye and having to make decisions, and your decisions are larger than life. You know what I'm saying? So if Kanye wakes up tomorrow and he's like, "Yo, I'm trying," the thing about Kanye is Kanye says exactly what he's thinking in a moment, versus like, "Let me process this and see, is this the right thought?" You know what I mean? So that's what we love and hate about him. We love Kanye because he says what he's thinking in the moment. And then we get frustrated with Kanye because he says what he's thinking in the moment. So when he's like, George Bush doesn't like black people, we're like, yeah, say that, Kanye, say that. And then in the moment when he's like, yo, I like the way Candace Owens thinks, we're like, what? What are you talking about right now, Kanye? And he's just saying what he thinks in the moment. So it's a lot of that.
Have you guys ever talked working together, anything, doing music?
Yeah, our teams have gotten together, you know what I'm saying? And there's been a lot of conversation around it. But again, nothing's come of it. You know what I'm saying? So would love to do something. But more than anything, I just support his journey.
Let me ask you a little bit of a deeper question. And this is something that I wrestle with a lot myself as a person that's Christian, but also has embraced other faiths very, I don't know. I don't think aggressively is the word, but just to say that I embrace other faiths. But Christianity was used to pacify Black people. And honestly, like when I saw Homeboy, and as well as the Chick-fil-A guy, he he also had some comments that I was just like, you want to wait a minute, let me get in there. But Christianity, like, what do you, my brother's a preacher. Let me throw that in there. My brother's a preacher, ordained, all that, but he's also from our era. Do you ever wrestle with Christianity? Do you ever think that maybe it's also part of the problem, like not Christianity, but like these institutions ever?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was driven to a place of, my book is called, comes out in October. It's called I'm Restored, How I Lost My Religion But Found My Faith.
Hmm.
And, I think you do have to throw off some of the traditionalism. I'm not a proponent of what I would call American nationalist Christianity. It's Western Christian institutions that it's more about America. It's more American than it is Christian. You know what I'm saying? And I think we buy into these traditions as if they're sacred when they're not really sacred. They're just what Westerners have come up with and conjured up that the motions that we go through. So some of them, there's nothing wrong with certain traditions, but when they become standard, you got to throw that stuff out. Or when some of the culture in it is standard, you throw that stuff out. So, yeah, I think you got to wrestle with it. If you really believe God is real, then he'll bring you where you need to be as you process and you wrestle with everything else. But I don't believe in white Jesus and slave master theology. I tell people that all the time. Christianity is an Eastern religion. You know what I'm saying? There was plenty of Christianity happening in Africa before we ever became slaves in America or Europe. And so I always tell people, like, the origins and the roots go way beyond what we've been taught. We're just so westernized. I mean, we all speak English. That's the evidence of the westernization of who we are. You know what I'm saying? We don't even know our heritage languages, any of that particular stuff. So yeah, you should wrestle with it in that regard. I went to Egypt and I learned about the Egyptian Christians, the Coptics, and learned about their history. And it's just a completely different history, but it's still embracing a biblical Messiah. There's a Jesus in the center that everybody agrees is, the savior. And all the cultural stuff and the way the churches are set up in America, that's not Bible. That's tradition.
How has your faith restored? Well, how has your faith maintained? How have you maintained your faith in this environment? I saw a young preacher. He was a white guy. He gave up his belief in God, at least momentarily, because I think he's a Christian rock guy. I can't remember his name, but he's like, man, we got a pandemic. The cops are wilding. Like, why would God let this happen to people like this? He's like, it can't be a God. He left the door open. I might come back, but right now I just can't see it. How do you feel in that regard, and how do you maintain your
Faith in the midst of all that. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a valid struggle that people should have, is wrestling, like, why does a good God let bad things happen? I think that's a valid struggle that we should have. But I think we have to also remember that if you embraced this faith in the last 20, 40 years, you still embrace the faith that you believe was legitimate when millions of people were enslaved and kidnapped from Africa. You still believed in a faith that you thought was legitimate when Native Americans were being brutalized and forced to walk the Trail of Tears. So it's not as if the world just got bad all of a sudden. You know what I'm saying? You're saying that despite and in spite of all these atrocities, the Holocaust, everything that's happening, that there's still a God who's good and who has a plan in the midst of all of this. You know what I'm saying? And so my surroundings don't dictate my faith. My faith dictates my surroundings. So it helps me to see, like, okay, in spite of everything that I'm seeing, I have hope and I have something to hang on to. And it's not a crutch. It's like, man, I believe that God is good and that all of this stuff is evil. And one day it's going to be totally obliterated and defeated. But it's been here. It ain't like it just showed up on the scene. It's been here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, super facts, super facts. Are you doing anything around the election in November? Do you have any thoughts of Mr. Well, 45? We'll leave the name alone. Do you get political, or do you?
I mean, I'm bipartisan. Obviously, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. You know what I'm saying? I am. I'm in process of how I really feel about politics. You know what I'm saying? So, I am. I believe that ultimately that God is my guide, and that He should guide me as to what matters in our society. And there's no political party that's going to fully embrace my beliefs and my views. But there are people that I just don't. I don't think their character is the character of leadership, and I don't think 45 demonstrates the leadership characteristics that we should be looking for. You know what I'm saying? So for that reason, I'm not a fan. I don't rock with them. But doesn't mean like I'm like, a staunch Democrat or, whatever, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, where's the policies that care about? So like, if I was, one perspective I've been wrestling through is like, yo, what if we're concerned about the Black issues in America, what if all the Black people got together, we had an independent party, we didn't run nobody, but we just said, this is our party. And until somebody gives us some candidate that has the potential to win, tells us what they're going to do for us as a community, then that's the one we can rock with. You know what I'm saying? Make some legitimate promises and follows through. That's a philosophy. I'm not saying that's where I land, but that's kind of the stuff that my brain processes.
Hey, I'm with you on that one. I think that we all can say that the Democrats have taken Black people for granted for a really long time. And I think so do the Republicans to some extent. They know we're not going to vote for them. As a bloc.
Yeah.
That's why Donald Trump can say, "Hey, what do you have to lose? They ain't doing nothing for you." You know what I mean? And Black people will be like, "Yeah, you're kind of right." You know what I'm saying? And I think that's a brilliant idea. So I'm gonna start checking the temperature on that and see what people think. I think we need to legitimately have some demands and some things that are on the table. And if you don't have an ear, then we may not be with you. So but that's thinking from a position of power and not necessarily as a victim, which we are in fact being victimized, but the mentality is different as well. So we could go on and on. So my last question has to deal with COVID. And I'm, listen, when we're in our little zone or thinking or even listening or looking at somebody's IG, I'm like thinking like, okay, we're in a pandemic. Black man, Black woman, Black man gets killed, hunted. I mean, the worst egregious perpetrations against people, like as far as we're concerned, like a man was hunted, Ahmaud Arbery. Man was killed, almost 9 minutes on his neck. A young lady was shot in her sleep. And then we're marching in where, it's set up so that we're so upset that we're literally putting our lives and health at risk during a pandemic of unprecedented levels in the last 100 years. And I can't help but think, like, maybe they're scripting this. Maybe this is the plan. Like, I don't know, bro. Like, I can't help but think. I broke quarantine because I spoke at a rally. I was in the house for months, and then I said, I can't do it. I gotta go. Do you have any of those thoughts? Does that ever cross your mind? Like, this is
evil is diabolical. So I don't put it past evil. Like, I think I'm not pointing a finger like a conspiracy as to who's orchestrating it all, but I'm just saying evil is diabolical. It's the second smartest intelligent force in the universe. So why not? You know what I'm saying? Why not? Now, what I would think would be more likely is that people with evil intentions use circumstances to get their intentions across. So in the same way as, like, let's say, oh yeah, police brutality's at an all-time high. How can I somehow, with my evil intentions, use this for my own evil plans? You know what I'm saying? So I could see that happening. But yeah, I don't put anything past, evil, man. Somebody's hell bent on evil, they're gonna do some crazy stuff.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. All right, man. Well, look, man, I just want to say thank you. As a Kappa, I said, the Alpha brother gonna help the brother out.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. It's rough out here in these streets, man.
Yeah, I had to throw that in there. But yeah, I just want to say thank you, man. I know you're a good guy. You're a man of God, and I want to, I personally felt it was imperative that we had this moment where we do talk and we do not just cancel someone or try to, people have tried to cancel me and it didn't work. So that's a whole nother topic. But I want to thank you for really being daring, man. A lot of people would say, yo, give it 24 hours, it'll be over, or give it a week, people will forget. I don't believe that to be the case in these times. I do believe that people have a long memory and that history will, will either exonerate you or really condemn you.
For sure.
So I say thank you, man. And All Hip Hop is a Black-owned company, and so I respect you taking your time, as well as that is concerned too. So
thank you, bro.
If you have any last words, the floor is yours.
Man, I just want to thank y'all, thank All Hip Hop, obviously thank the community. This, to me, it ain't about selling records or anything like that, man. I'm just here to do the work. So my sincerity is not to be taken lightly. If you never buy another album, it's all good. I just want you to know from my heart, like, man, I care about the culture, and I would never be okay with any of the commentary that was said. So appreciate y'all, man.
All right, and last but not least, thanks to Jackie O, your publicist. She's a wonderful woman and a longtime friend of mine and of All Hip Hop, who has actually been trying to get us together, unbeknownst to me, for quite some time. So I'm about to get on some of my writers and be like, "Yo, bro, don't do that." You know what I'm saying? So, yes. Thanks again. I know you have other interviews, but best wishes.
Thank you, bro.
Salute.